Hi, my name is Vince Czyz. I will be reading from Sun Eye, Moon Eye. But before I do, I would like to thank John Madeira for all he does for the small presses and its authors. Shauna was dreaming. He knew because he could see her eyes moving beneath their lids. He sat on the edge of the mattress looking down at her, his own eyes adjusting to murk, tinged red by the glow of a digital clock. She was on her side, the sheet pulled up to her neck and a hand balled underneath to anchor it there. No matter how hot the night, she needed that scrap of cover. Anything woke him. The silent liquid change of a digit, sometimes. Or maybe that was happenstance, the flowing number coinciding with a change somewhere else, a subtle difference in the arrangement of things. Maybe he picked it up somehow, like being on the ocean bottom and feeling a pocket of cool water drift past, or a shift in the tug of the current. Maybe what he really felt was a good friend whose heart had finally given out, or a mother's distress for the son she hadn't seen in years. The street, the sidewalk, were slicked with rain that had fallen maybe half an hour ago. Traffic lights signaled to drivers who weren't there. The silence was amazing to him, that anything of this magnitude could be still. They led cafe lives in this city, blocked out bits of the night, put a sheet of glass between themselves and the homeless woman shuffling past, sipped their coffee. Living in one compartment, working in another, shuttling back and forth between them, only ants had a greater affinity for niches and chambers. Steam seeped around the rim and through the perforations of a manhole cover, rose across the street like fog from the underworld. The only movement there was, or you might never know, the city was hollow. New York was Euclid's dream of space. Straight lines, angles as sharp as blades, planes like smooth stretches of sky, circles and spheres as friendly to pie as fish eyes and turtle eggs. A line of glass moons on steel poles made a long tent of pale light. At home in the brick stillness, he put his hand on a cornerstone, fixed there for how many years? For how many more? The weight of a building on it. There had been cities in the Americas before there had been Anglos. A place to come back to, something to haunt. The mouth of a subway reeked of grease singed by electricity. The entrance grated off to keep insomniacs like him from being swallowed. Cramped, crowded, dense as New York was, there were still vacant lots. Discarded bottles, like shiny grave markers, knocked over, in disarray. Broken glass crunched underfoot. Outside Okeen, Oklahoma, he'd come across an old rockery, the floorboards warping up to meet his foot, covered with bits of plaster, shards of window, a dozen open boxes, strips of wood, scattered papers, calendars well past the years they marked. The whole place a kind of stopped clock, where you got to look at time. Not at what time it was, at time. A storefront with meticulously attired mannequins recalled the tribal dead buried in their finest regalia. Wind swept past him from an unexpected car. He watched the red glow of the taillights, reflected on the wet street, shrink and disappear around a corner. No one stood still anymore. He stood still, staring. At clouds so low they almost touched the tops of skyscrapers. Lights making bright spots on them as if tiny moons were on the rise. Katsinas dance on rooftops, stomp on the tar and gravel of these hollow buttes, parade their power, like flashes of lightning at the center of a dry desert storm. Above the day, a desert of crystal blue. To the north, one of immaculate white and ice. 3/5 of the world's sea-misted desert where St. Elmo's fire dances on spars, winds itself like electric blue eels around masts, reminds mariners of voices older than their superstitions. They dance. The mask wearers, whose faces we are not allowed to see. The fire bearers, whose bodies we are not allowed to touch. Gold-spun hair floating lazily above empty sockets, the skull of a Norwegian woman, whose grave is sealed by asphalt, turns to him and speaks. If only she had known this earth was restless with the native dead, she would have gone back to her home across the water. She would have returned to its Arctic calm. This beauty, she says, is too terrifying. It will not let her lie. Remember what it was like before cities buried horizons, he says. Remember that. A Katsina with slits for eyes, kilt stitched with lightning, reaches for her withered hand. Beneath stars humming in their vacuum-bitten desert, they dance. Bones rattling, feet thumping, hair curling into flame. They dance. By light leaking from the ceiling, how could it? By light that seeped through the window, bled from the red digits of the clock, he saw Shauna's face. He looked up to see whether there was glass in the ceiling, a moon overhead. There was neither. The music had gone out of time. No chime on the hour, no melody played at midnight or midday, no cuckooing bird, no tick even to announce the passage of the night. He heard Shauna's breathing. He lay in bed beside her, not sure what had woken him. Something pushing out or something pressing in. He looked down. His jeans lay on the floor, belt still threaded through the loops. He remembered the leaden light of the hospital. Remembered the night he'd heard his own singing coming from somewhere else, from outside. He lifted a sneaker off the floor. The bottom was wet. He hadn't been dreaming. Or if he had, he hadn't been sleeping. Thanks very much.